Have you tried the Omnisphere? That's like everybody says that's the sound designer's secret tool.
So I've been like at the shop with the money in my hand about to buy it. And then I walk away from it because I keep thinking, okay, everybody has all those samples, and even though it's
not sample, you program it as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know you can still program it. I just, for some reason, I'm like, that's the only thing that slightly holds me back. But, I think it's amazing from the sound of it.
All the sound designers in the heavyweight bass group swear by it. It's the secret weapon.
Okay, yeah.
If you have Omnisphere and Massive or Serum, you don't need anything else. That's the two that you need. That does enough. And maybe, FM8 because it's FM8 and you can just add that extra layer of FM synthesis to it, but you don't need anything else. That's what a lot of people say. So I'm so do you mess with can you read that? What's that?
I don't know what that is.
I don't even know what that is.
Neither do I. What is that?
Exciteworks granular synth. It's a granular synth.
I do use granular synths, but not that one. I've never heard of
not that one. Vinny, can you link it in the chat, please, so people can see it? Yeah, put the link in the chat. Send in a message, and I can share it up, and then people can see it once we watch back as well. I can share the links down the bottom. So
I've got one called the Mangle, which visually it looked really cool, and I bought it, and it's only, I think it's like $30 or $50 or something, so it's all right. It's pretty cheap, but even though it looks really cool, I every time I go to use it, I'm just like, this is so unintuitive. So I use the one that's in Ableton as well. All right, cool. I'll check it out.
I'm just going to pin. Yeah, I'm just pinning that link. Is it pinned? I've just opened it. Well, that link doesn't work. Hold on. Let's shorten it. Now, the link doesn't work. Vinny, the link doesn't work. But I'll come back to that and have a look at it. Facebook it to me. What was the first DnB record you bought?
First one I ever bought. It's a good question, and I'm trying to think of what the first thing I actually bought on. I probably bought it on CD first, because I actually started DJing in about the year 2000. So 2 years after I started producing, and I started on CDs, which was really unpopular at the time. And I used to take my own CD players to wherever I was going to play, and people would kind of like hiss at you and they'd hate it. They would be like, that's not DJing. And the shit that you would get. But at the time, I couldn't afford the records, and you could buy a whole CD compilation. It's heaps cheaper. But so the first record I bought was probably Ed Rush and Optical. It's probably something like Ghostbusters or something like that, because that's what I always loved back in those times, like, or Ed Rush, like Prototype years.
Groundbreakers. They were groundbreakers and trendsetters. Optical, the production back then.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Personally, they've fallen behind a lot of people now because it's but that, what do people call it, neuro or whatever people like to call it, that sounds, they invented it.
Yeah, definitely.
That's the sound. So I've got a few questions on other things. What do you consider boring but absolutely necessary production work?
The boring stuff.
Yeah. What do you consider to be boring but absolutely necessary?
Okay. Let me have a think. Just trying to work that out. There's I think there's some stages of a mix where you realize you need to do something, maybe manually chopping out side chains, like by hand, where if your side chain isn't cutting it and you've got to go in and really like get in there and cut audio out. I think that can be a bit boring, like some real manual automation, which a lot of people don't do, and I think you've got to do it.
You have to do it. Volume automation on vocals, fucking annoying. After compression. Yeah. I mean, a trick that I've started using, which is cut down on the amount of volume automation I need to do. It hasn't stopped it. You still need to do it, but I've been using Waves Vocal Rider.
Yep.
And I put that early in the chain. So my vocal chain would be I've got to mix in someone, and so say it's not unprocessed vocal. So it would be EQ cut in the lower and the bottom with a little shelf at the top, boosted a bit there. Then an 1176 compressor. Then I would put a de-esser and then vocal rider.
All right. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, then catches it. Then I would put another compressor with low ratio, just catching the next little bit of peaks. Another de-esser on a different frequency if it needs it. Except working like that, and then you're boosting EQ, etc. for your character. Then do the vocal automation. What I'm finding is the vocal rider has cut down the amount of automation that I need to do. It still needs to be done. Just doesn't. I don't need to go in and do so much. Yeah, and that's a little trick.
That's definitely like a boring task that I don't love doing. And Melodyne as well. That's just such a painful way of working, like going in and, kind of, tuning if you need to, and then making sure that the tuning is subtle enough that nobody can really hear it, or just catching any of those things that are out. And that's boring.
All right, and then conversely, what do you find the most exciting thing while doing in production? What's
starting at when you've got I guess when you get a loop going that's really, really good, or you've got like a melody that's really working, a good harmony with a melody working over the top of it, something like that. That's, to me, that's an exciting part where the production phase hasn't like totally crushed you, which sometimes by the end, the end of the mix, you're just like, God, that was hard. Like that's taken everything I have out of me. When you still believe in the tune, that's the part I like.
Someone's asked a question: what monitors are you using at the moment? And you can tell your funny monitor story that you told me the other week.
So I'm using, at the moment, I've got some Osbornes, which are an Australian brand. I've also got Focal Twins, and I was using the Focal Twins for about 10 years, and they're awesome. But I've had I was holding a little, a MacBook cable, like a little power cable like that, holding in my hand like this, and I was plugging in my power cable, and it went flying out of my hands because of the magnet in the speakers, and just punched through the tweeter. And they work perfectly. You can't actually hear the difference. Well, I can't. But every day I'm sitting there staring at them, going, God, it bothered me after a while. So I've retired them for a while, and I'm gonna get them fixed and then bring them back out.
And so you've got these Osbornes, and so they're Australian made.
They're Australian, and I guess they're hi-fi speakers.
Near fields or freeways, or what design are they?
So they've got a rear port on them. They've got two, like a tweeter and a bass driver. They don't go that low. They are I find them very accurate. They're not great as near fields in a way, because their bass picks up about 3 meters back. So they're not, I guess they're almost like a trade-off. Like I use the sub with them to replace the sub that I'm not feeling, but they have an awesome high end because they've got, the guy buys Focal tweeters and he buys the most expensive ones. Like they're the ones that are on their crazy expensive $20,000 speakers. So they've got some really good aspects, and then others that,
all right, welcome to everybody that's joined. I can see Funky Jen has joined. A few other people, we've got a few viewers. If you've got any questions, post your questions in the chat, and then I can ask Royalston the questions. If you want to call in, there's a call in button. You can push and join the live chat and come in and say hello and ask any questions. Hilton's just joined as well. Hello, Hilton. I'm just going to get through these questions because I actually have a few that people sent. Have you developed a personal process for your production and songwriting? Are there any you could share and elaborate on?
I could just tell you how I do it. I might start with a drum loop, and like some days I won't try and produce too heavily. I think I'm more worried about the more worried about the music when I start, and trying to get something musically interesting, and then I'll go back and do the production. So start start with the loop just to get a groove, start jamming with synths and just layering stuff over the top.
Do you mix as you go, or do you write and then mix at the end?
I'm mixing as I go, but I will then do I definitely look it all over or probably at several points during the process, and kind of go, how's the mix, check it all really quite closely. It's I'm pretty slow, really, to be honest. I write, then I mix, then I'll write again, because I find a lot of the mixing problems that you run into are because of the writing. So
sound choice, elements not working together once you start clearing them out, the usual stuff. And
harmonic movement. I think that's something really, really, like, if a song's not satisfying.
I think that's probably one of the most important things you said there, the harmonic movement. It, like, people just forget about the movement in the track, how important it is, especially because we're going so loud with stuff now. You know what I mean? Dynamics of the track is lost. So having sort of just that movement in a track is so important, because otherwise, it's just one big fucking loud blurb in a club, so to speak.
And also, like, I don't subscribe to the to those kind of rules about keeping your key between E and G or whatever. I see it written everywhere, but I actually really like tunes where people have made a mix work where it's where you're doing the wrong thing. So like a very low tune, like say C, written with a bass in C, which is extremely low, it's going to eat up your headroom. But if you can do it right, it means your track is going to come in and it's going to sit somewhere else, and I think it will stand out because it's different.
I totally agree. I totally agree. And if you are going to be able to make something like that work, the mixing that goes involved to get all that so that everything else sounds balanced and that the bass isn't dominating, it is going to sound fucking good at the end as well, because the mixing to get all that to sound well, everything's got to be, everything above that big low bass, it's got to be spot on. So I agree. Those kind of tunes really stand out, and not only from just the musical aspect, but from the mix aspect as well. It's always normally people who know what they're doing. Do you know what I mean? When people attempt to do something like that, it's people who really know what they're doing.
I was talking to. Oh, sorry to cut in. I was talking to our mutual friend Anthony Hook and Sling, and he, was talking to me about how he puts house guys often put a kick that goes down to low C or even lower. And I was just thinking about that, going like, all right, this is supposed to be bass music. It's supposed to be drum and bass. We're all proud of how bassy our music is. I kind of don't want house music to have more bass than drum and bass. So you gotta go low if you can. So
dude, I'll tell you what, no bullshit. Some of the house out there right now has got way more bass than drum and bass.
Oh, really?
Right. It's a tempo thing though. With the drum and bass, it's the energy of the music that really makes it. You know what I mean? Obviously, the hardness of the sounds in a lot of it. Obviously, not all of it. There's kind of more mellow and deeper sounds, but the tempo thing, because the energy of the music is what makes it stand out. But some of the house music out there right now, fucking got some serious. Okay. If there is one mistake or bad experience you've gone through as an artist, what advice could you give up to coming producers so that they avoid going through the same thing?
Got a lot of things, because I should have given up, really. I think it took me ages and ages to get signed, and so I've probably made a million mistakes that I could tell you not to do, like don't try and learn how to program Reactor, because that was just a waste of time, unless you really are inclined to do those things. The most important thing is just to just write music. Don't worry, just don't overthink it. Just keep chuck samples in your sequencer and just actually try and write music, and don't worry if the production's not perfect. Just keep making music.
I completely agree. It's something that I say to a lot of the youngsters that come through here for mastering, come through to me. They spend too long on one track, You know, and they'll go, oh, I'll go back and change, you know, I'll send them a master back and they'll be like, oh, they can hear something now, and they'll go back and want to change it all, etc. I'm like, don't, just stop, move on to the next one. If you keep going back over these older tracks, you're not learning anything, you know. Take what you've learned in that track and the mistakes and the improvements, put it into something new, you know. Just if you're not spending you know, at least an hour a day in your studio, and it doesn't even have to be writing, it can be just collecting samples up, listening to music, analyzing your favorite artists, listening to different styles of music, you know, not just fucking that, you know. I mean, that's probably one of the biggest things for me, sort of diverting. It's that kids are just listening to one style of stuff. They're into fucking I'm into this, I'm only into that, and they spend all week listening to it and not listening to influences from other styles. But yeah, you're right. You know, that's a big thing for me. Just move on, get stuff written.
And I think just thinking about that a little bit more, I think I read a lot of stuff when I was learning, and I mean, YouTube didn't exist, which makes kind of life completely different. But like compression, I was kind of reading all this stuff about compression. I thought, I've got to compress everything, and I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. You need to be able to write a song before you really need to know how to compress. So I would say, like, to anyone, maybe just don't even use a compressor for the first 3 years of writing a song. Like, that's how little you need them if you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Once you know why you need them, then go and use it. But if you don't know,
I'm giving you mad props there, mate. I'm clicking the hand, giving you mad props, because it's true. Compression does not make things sound better, and there's a misconception that the internet. I love the internet. We wouldn't be able to do what we're doing now if it wasn't for the internet. But there's just so much bad information on there. And compression is just one of the topics that there's so many groups that I'm a member of, and I just don't bother answering or replying to some of the shit that I see. I honestly, you know, compression is not about making stuff louder. That's one of the biggest myths that you're going to see. It can be helpful, you can be useful in it, but that's not what it's for. Compression does not make things better. Most sounds don't need compression. Just learning how a compressor works. And you know, until you understand what attack and the ratio and release do, just don't go near it. Just, you know, and people just stick compressors on sounds hoping to make the sound better, but most of the time the problem is the source material, not picking the right sound to start with.
Definitely. I think I'm still working at actual, like, I've understood how a compressor works and exactly what it does for years, but I'm only really still learning when or why you would actually want to use one in an electronic music context. Like, I still kind of, like, just even this week I've kind of found a few new ways of using them that I actually go,
I completely agree. I rarely compress anything under 300 hertz. I let that area breathe, unless the source sound is shit. Then you know, then you need to go in and do some work, and then I might do a little bit of multi-banding. But I don't compress anything under 300. When I do compress, I use a combination of compressors and limiters. Low ratios, taking 2 or 3 dB off for glue, followed by limiters to capture some peaks. Literally gentle bits of massage in it. People forget that compression is, what's the word? It's accumulative. All right.
It multiplies.
So if it multiplies. So if you've got something on there with a 2-to-1 ratio, and then it's running into a bus here with a 4-to-1, and then you've got this on you're just adding up these stacks of layers of compression everywhere. Use it sensibly. You know, if a sound doesn't need it, don't need it. Where do you see DnB going in the next 2 to 5 years? Can we even get any more? Neuro? Is that possible?
I'm sure someone will work out a way to get more neuro, but I hope not. Personally, I hope it gets a bit more. I would love to see it all just get a little bit quieter. Personally, I'm listening to, like, the new promos at the moment from a lot of massive artists. They've rammed those tracks as hard as they can through a limiter, to the point where I swear they all kind of just sound the same. Like,
Yeah.
They're sort of too loud for their own good.
You know what I do for a living, and I there's very few of them. There's two that I can name right now that do it right, that I can listen to their tracks and go, yeah, fuck, they do that right. TB
Who? Oh, yeah.
and Noisia.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
Everybody else, it just sounds, just they all sound the same. They all sound really, really squashed, and they all, there's just no movement left in any tracks. Talk about, do you send your stuff off mastering, or are you just mastering yourself, running into a mastering chain at the end?
I do it myself, but then I will take that off and send it off for mastering, and I'll kind of compare the two. And so I do heaps of mastering here. I'm really worried about it during the process. I'm always trying to get stuff loud without it being too smashed, unless that's the goal. Like some tracks you want to smash, but some tracks have dynamics.
It needs to be. It's the only way you can get loud without really getting that super squash limiter feel is hardware and stages, analog gain staging. There's certain running through certain bits of hardware, bringing the gain stage up so the levels come up, then clipping the AD so that you bring the level up that way, and then when you get to the limiter, you're only really adding 1 or 2 dB with a limiter because you've done it all the way through the hardware chain. That's the only way to get that. I can get stuff up as loud as the loudest drum and bass, but it will still sound more dynamic because it's running through a chain, and I've got headroom at each stage. So I'm bringing it up and pushing a compressor slightly into the red, then pushing another little bit, etc., until I get to the AD, and that's it. Otherwise, everything's just going to be squashed as fuck, basically.
Just bit by bit. Yeah. Definitely.
What do you think the current trends in production are, specifically relating to drum and bass? Do you use any regularly, or at least test out stuff?
Yeah. Well, I mean, one big thing in drum and bass is cutting the bottom off your kicks. It's something I've never done, and it means that the volume of my tracks I'd generally bring it down, because to get that loudness, you do need to cut the bottom of your kicks generally, or they sound distorted. Yeah. So I guess that's a trend. I'm sure it'll continue. I've been experimenting with cutting the bottoms off like everyone else, but something that I love when I'm in a club is a massive kick drum. Like, it's just, if you're in there and dancing, the kick drum is so important to me. And sometimes in drum and bass, when I've heard a whole set of drum and bass, there is heaps of bass, but there's no definition to it. It just kind of is walls of bass, constant bass. There's nothing kind of dividing that up. And I think the kick is what can kind of give you some impact and change in that mix.
Yeah, I think a lot of dance music could learn some stuff from people like Eric Pritz and John Dahlback and all these kind of guys. They have two masters done. They have a pushed, loud, whatever you want type master for Beatport, for the digital sounds and everything else, and then they have a dynamic master, with its peak level at sort of minus 10 RMS, something like that, old vinyl levels, maybe a bit louder for them to play out.
Yeah,
and it's always going to sound better on a good system. I don't care what anybody
sounds so good. Yeah.
If you got one of the problems I personally think we've gone down this path is that clubs just don't have sound guys anymore like they used to. Back in the day, they used to have this good system would have a sound man, and he would come in and he would stop the level that the mix is being pushed at, so nothing's in the red. And as the night went on, he would come in. I don't know if you play at Fabric. I played there many years ago, many times, but back in the day, and the sound guy comes in and the amp's on the wall and he goes, "You all right?" And he comes in and pushes the level up, and you know what I mean. He starts bringing the system up at night, and a dynamic master will sound 100 times better. Agreed?
Yeah, definitely. So I mastered, well, not me, but I got the my album mastered a lot quieter than for a lot of the tracks. Some of them kind of worked at a minus 6 RMS level, like pretty pushed, but I kind of dropped the volume on that just so that we could have that. You could feel the speaker actually moving rather than just constantly I guess it's just distortion. Just maximum level all the time, which eventually just becomes boring.
Tom says dynamics for streaming for the win. It's not. I know certain sounds, the push sound works, but it is, you know, it really is. You're tricking yourself. The ears are being tricked that louder is better. When you level match a really pushed master with something dynamic, and you level match them and you play, the dynamic master 9 times out of 10 will sound better.
Yeah.
Now there are ways of bringing that level up really loud. As I said, gain staging through analog gear, clipping the AD, you know, reducing the amount of actual limiting that you're going to use will makes a big difference to the end level. If you're going to end up using like fucking 8 dB on a limiter, your stuff's going to sound fucking pushed as fuck. Oh look, old mate, old mate's just joined, and we just Anthony Hook and Slings just joined. Hello, mate. How are you?
We were just talking about you.
We were just talking about you. Another fucking top Australian producer just joined in. So anyway, I was just ranting and raving about dynamic level and pushed masters, because people come to me because I get loud with, you know, with some sort of pseudo dynamics, and I do everything via the analog chain. But if I was still going to tell anyone, if you can get away with it, dynamic, just listen to the German techno or the tech house and all those guys. That shit sounds amazing, and none of that is pushed hard at all.
Yeah, definitely.
There's movements. You can see some peaks on the web file. All right, I'm going to some short fire questions. You can only have, you're on a desert island, you can only have one EQ. What would it be?
Probably the Pro Q.
Fab filter.
Yeah, Fab filter. I use different EQs every week, which is really stupid, because then when I go back to my old projects, I've got to reinstall the old EQ. But I think Fab filter is a really good compromise of using it, like usability, and it sounds fun. It sounds good.
Do you change the mode that it's in? I find that natural, the first mode, you know, when you first load it up, if you leave it in the first mode it's on, I move it to natural phase, because otherwise it sounds smeary. I don't know if you can hear that.
All right. I haven't even looked into that on.
Okay. So when you open it up, there's a mode at the bottom. Zero. There we go. Hilton said it. Zero latency is the first mode it opens with. I find that shit. If that's over the top, it's a smear on the sound, especially with the high pass, the low cuts, etc. If you do anything more than a 6 to 12 dB slope, it's horrible, very smeary. But if you set that to natural phase, there you go, natural phase mode.
Okay,
it's the way to do it. Or linear phase, but linear phase, you get the delay, obviously, when you're stopping and starting, and you know, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, moving to natural phase. Okay, same thing. Compressor, what would it be?
Compressor. I'm really liking the Native Instruments supercharger. I quite like that.
I use that all the time.
Right. Okay.
I can use that all the time.
Or the glue. Mate, the glue's pretty good too. Yeah.
The glue's great, and you know, as an Ableton user, you get it with it. Supercharger, I use that all the time. That's my go-to compressor on the parallel. I do everything. Right. I do if I'm doing any compression, I mainly do it all on the parallel channels. You know, I'll send to a parallel, do my EQ compression, and that's what been using Supercharger. It's great. It's got you can do that sort of 1170-60 kind of vibe to it. It just really fucking smack the drums. Sounds great on parallel. Yeah. And reverb.
I'm always changing reverbs. I've got the Valhalla ones. I've got Arts Acoustic. I've got Altaverb. I think the best of all of them is Altaverb. But for an like algorithmic reverb, I'm still not sure. Like Valhalla, they're really cheap, and you can make them sound good, but a lot of the time I think they sound really crap. Like Valhalla Room, I know it's very popular on the internet, but I don't know. It sounds really tinny to me a lot of the time. And
I like Shimmer, Valhalla Shimmer.
Okay, I don't have that
Rooms. If I'm using Rooms, if it's software, I would use. Still now, even after all these years, I would use IK Multimedia Classic Studio Reverbs for halls. Still don't think it's been beaten. And Breverb.
Yeah, I don't know that.
And I've just started using. I got the demo of it the other week, and I just bought it. Breeze, and what's the company that makes it? ACE or 2C audio. There you go. Hilton just answered. Yeah,
Okay.
Breeze. So I'm going to get the other one as well. There's another one they do. I can't remember what it's called. Maybe Hilton or someone can tag it. But yeah, I've just started using that,
Okay.
and that's a really, really, really good reverb as well. All right, someone else just sent this question in. What are the sounds you used in your tune Cronus, or at least how did you make them?
He's probably talking about the main lead, and I think it's a sub bass, and then it would have two kind of middle. I think one's massive, the other one is probably Zebra, and they're two layered basses, sort of mid-range basses that I kind of have EQ'd and blended together. So you got 3 layers, and I tried out heaps of different. Like I'd bounce the audio out and I'd check the phase and got them in phase before I settled with it, I guess.
Yeah.
So,
do you do a lot of stuff for checking phase on everything and correcting all the phase in your mixing stage?
I try to, yeah. Just on the bass and layered bass and you showed me that
the box and go
thing. Yeah, so I'm going to try using that a bit more. Although it sucks in Ableton, it's just hopeless, kind of doesn't work in Ableton very well.
There's a lot of plugins that don't work very well in Ableton.
yeah. But I've got my kind of ways that I work, and I just have to get like workarounds that you have for Ableton.
Is there any hardware purchases for the future? What are you looking at?
There always is.
We were discussing summing mixers at lunch last week.
Yeah, I'm very tempted by one of them. That's probably the main thing. I'd love to kind of get a mixer where I can incorporate my 500 stuff and my rack stuff, and just be using that as inserts, as the final inserts. That's kind of the ultimate goal.
But what about not just getting a converter with more ins and outs and running from that, so you can
just doing 4 stems?
Well, no, exactly. So you could get like an Antelope, which has got 30 odd ins and outs, so you can have the ins and outs running to the hardware, out to the hardware, back in, and then still just have 4 stereo pairs running to the summing mixer, but you still got 24 ins and outs running to hardware, and then
that would be the goal with the summing mixer. Run out to summing mixer and back, and through all that gear. Get a bigger patch bay and
exactly. Yes, still got the space station, Anthony asked.
The Space Echo. I've got 3 of them. I've got the original one and I love it. There's nothing that sounds like that still. But a few years ago I got another one that sounds a bit different. It's got a spring reverb in it, and it's got phaser, and it does like a tape flanging kind of thing, and
I blame Dylan for my early hardware obsession. Mr. Hook and Sling says.
I blame him too.
Yeah.
I was always just trying to catch up to him. He pretty much taught me everything that I know.
Look at that. He's a good man. He's a good man, isn't
talented.
He? Very, very talented man. Just a little bit of a wanker, but talented.
Oh, he's a wanker, for sure.
Yeah, actually, Anthony, we need to do one of these if you're up for it, Mr. Hogan Sling. One of these live chats. You already did an interview, but we need to do a live chat, catch up on what you're doing in the US. If you're up for it, you can. Yeah, cool. He's down. If you play gigs and shows, do you mind chatting with fans about production? I think this is a hint that he wants to ask you some questions while you're out.
I think that's all I do. I want some groupies that don't ask me about production. That's all I talk about at gigs.
Right. Okay. And that's all right.
It's fine. It's fine. I enjoy talking about production. So.
It's all I do. My wife fucking hates it. Seriously.
Yeah.
I think my wife would fucking smother me with a pillow during my sleep if she could get away with it. Because that's all I talk about all the time. And I'm teaching my little kids all about it as well. My young one's going to be like the best female mixed mastering engineer in the world if I have my way.
Awesome.
Although she wants to be a pop star, but we'll work on that as well. And look, we're going to finish up, but I just want to ask, have you got one tip, one piece of advice that you would share with everybody?
But maybe, well, like seeing as Anthony's here, I think one thing that really helped me was, it was probably 10 years ago, I went and I took a track to him, and I was totally frustrated with it, and he mixed it down for me. And I think in the process of doing that, it kind of, I don't know, it just sorted my head out in terms of production, and I think my stuff improved. So maybe like, going and getting your stuff mixed by someone else, even if you're not in the room, just hearing how they restructure your stuff could really help. And the other thing would just be like, keep doing it. Like, don't think that after 3 or 4 years, you're going to be God's gift to music.
Yep.
Or maybe you are. I don't know.
Both great tips. Same for me. I went and did courses, then do this, worked in studios. The best things I ever learned was sitting in and watching other people work and doing collaborations with other people, or going in. And yes, I agree. And I know I do it for a living or anything else, but don't be scared of getting your stuff mixed by someone else. It doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means it's a second set of ears and it's an improvement. I've got a lot of people that are more than capable of doing their mixes, but they come to me to get theirs done because it's a second set of ears, And this makes a big difference. We've got one more question. Do you have a liquid Prince remix coming up soon?
No, I don't.
Oh, sorry. You know what? I didn't even clock on that one. I thought that was a genuine question. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Prince. Oh yeah, the singer. Right. Never a fan, so sacrilege. Never one of mine. Not into it. Did you like Prince?
Did I?
Yeah, was you a Prince fan?
Oh, did that person? Yeah, I like Prince. Definitely.
Never owned one of his records, never listened to him. So
my favorite song is actually Bat Dance, which he did for like the 1990 version of Batman.
the one, it was George Clooney. Was George Clooney in that one?
Before him as Michael Keaton.
Oh right, yeah. Okay.
If I remix any Prince song, it'll be that. Yeah.
My wife woke me up at fucking 4:30 this morning. My little one fell asleep in our bed, so I slept in her bedroom. And at 4:30, there was a light on my eyes, and I woke up, and my wife was holding the mobile phone lit up with tears running down her face, saying, "Prince is dead. Prince is dead," because she's a massive fan. And I was just like, "Are you fucking serious?" Waking me up to tell me that. I couldn't give a fuck. Honestly, couldn't give a fuck. Sorry that he's dead, but hey, just shit happens, eh? Life goes on. Really? Sorry. Probably died of AIDS.
No comment.
Well, fucking pneumonia or something. I don't know. Something I read on the internet today. The power of the internet. Don't give a fuck if I offend anybody, by the way. If I did and you watch back, really don't care. But listen, thank you very much, mate. Thank you for your time. We'll be doing another one of these next week with someone, and I'll let you know. That's it. You'll be able to watch this back. This is being recorded, and it will be up on somewhere, and I'll post up the links. So that's it. Thanks very much, mate.
Cool.
I'll speak to you real soon. Thanks to everyone tuning in and watching, and we'll see you next week for another one.